Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, a little badass gift to you. Today's topic is business accreditation. About 10 months after we started our business, I received a call from the Better Business Bureau asking if we were interested in becoming an accredited business. I was a bit surprised they even knew who we were. But after looking through the accreditation process, we decided to go for it. There's not much more to it than paying a minimal monthly fee and attending a few of their networking events from time to time. Along with being listed on their website to increase our visibility, the best part is including that BBB logo on all our marketing material. Some younger folks out there may not recognize that torch logo, but I can tell you, folks my age definitely respect the organization. If you would like to gain some instant credibility, reach out to your local Better Business Bureau chapter and complete an application today. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my friend, Maria Acosta. Maria is a full-time real estate investor and entrepreneur in North Texas. Over the course of the last 5 years, she has managed to fix and flip nearly 30 homes, build a portfolio of 12 rentals, and raise over $1 million in private funding for real estate transactions completed by her company. What's amazing is Maria just left her corporate job, transitioning full-time into real estate last November, and in the first quarter of this year, her business profited over $100,000. She is clearly a total badass, so welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much, girl. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you. You and I met in Cancun at the Tab Retreat, which is the absolute best retreat. You all have to check it out. Our friend Terry Thayer runs it, and it is an amazing experience. But I have to tell you, Maria, the first time I met you, I was like, holy shit, who is this? We were sitting in a room. It was like a little breakout session. We went around and all of us are just sitting around a table, and we were asked to introduce ourselves, and it comes to you, and you just stand up and you just took control over the whole situation. I was like, I like her. So I was very, very impressed with you from day one. So welcome to the show. Give us a little background on you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I am originally from the Dominican Republic. So I was born in the DR, came to the States when I was pretty young. I was like 4 years old. I lived in Cleveland, Ohio temporarily, but raised in New York. So I'm a New York girl. But from New York, I went to school in Rhode Island. I actually studied accounting and finance. So that's how I ended up at my corporate job. So worked in my corporate job for almost 12 years. I was in Rhode Island and actually got transferred to the Dallas-Fort Worth area probably about 10 years ago. It's been a crazy ride. I never thought I'd be living in this part of the country. And moving out here is actually initially what got me started, in real estate. So it's been insane. And like you mentioned, I just quit the corporate job a couple months ago. So it's been, amazing. I never thought I'd be able to do this.
So you did all that stuff while working a 9-to-5 job.
Yep, exactly.
That is amazing. And what was your corporate job?
So I was an investment consultant. So essentially, guys, I was a glorified telemarketer. That's kind of what it was. So I had my Series 7 and 63, and essentially I would just call financial advisors, pitching them on our mutual fund products. So I worked for a financial services company. I worked for Fidelity Investments, awesome company. And I think working in that job is kind of what took the fear away from talking to people. You know what I'm saying? When I got out of college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So honestly, I kind of just accepted the job. So it was one of the positions, that I was given. And I don't know, I've benefited so much from it. Like talking to people that were just in such higher positions than I was, financial advisors that were managing, millions and millions, if not billions of dollars. It kind of just got rid of any fears that I had in talking to people. And, it really helped, especially with the transition to real estate, because you get told no all the time. So it really helps develop that thick skin. So I'm really glad that that's initially where I started, since it's helped me, tremendously on the real estate side.
Well, when I think of Maria, I think of fearless, honestly, because you just command the room when you speak, and total badass. I just really enjoyed meeting you and glad we have been able to stay connected. And we are going to spend some more time together at the next Tab Retreat in Jamaica.
Yay.
So people, if you're listening, come join us in Jamaica. So I met you in Cancun, excuse me, and then I've been following you on Facebook, and you all the time are doing these closings. And something really cool that you do that makes you stand out is you have a calendar, like this block calendar. And so explain that. You take a photo every time you are signing something, but there's this block calendar next to you. So what is that all about?
Yeah, no, definitely. So the title company that I go to, they just kind of have that there in their signing room. And I love their room. It's all glass, super nice table. And yeah, I don't know. So I want to, show people like, no, yes, this is today that I just purchased this house.
Exactly.
And so one of the girls just kind of put that there like, okay, cool. We're going to document it, with today's date. So literally, and we've just kind of been doing that ever since. I love going to go see them. So I'm always signing at the office. I don't do a lot of remote stuff. If I'm in the area, I'm going to come, check out my girls. And actually I did a deal with one of them. So it's like, when you really get to know people, it's not just people outside, that you're selling property. So you could sell properties to people working at the title company too. So that's something I did here recently.
I look at those pictures and I'm like, oh, she's using that picture again. I'm like, no, damn, it's a different date on there. Like, that is, so I love that technique. Very, very cool. Something that you're really great at, and I guess maybe it was that influence from corporate America, is raising private money, because you have raised over $1 million so far in your business. So what are some tips and tricks you can tell the listeners on best ways of finding that private money?
Yeah, definitely. And to actually kind of put in perspective, Jen, so I raised over $1 million just last year in 2021. So, and again, doing that kind of around my full-time job. And for me, kind of where that started. So I have a mindset coach that I work with. So I don't know if your listeners are familiar with Brian Ponciano, but he's out of the Phoenix, Arizona area. And he has a podcast and it's called, I don't know if I could say it, but it's called Unfuck Your Mindset. So we might need to bleep that out. I don't know.
No,
but that
F-bombs are welcome.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to check. But yeah, no, so he was actually the one that encouraged me to do that initially, just because I saw that he was raising a lot of money, for a lot of his deals. And I'm like, how is he able to do all these deals? Because for a while, I was the one that was funding whatever gap I needed between what a hard money lender would cover, for a fix and flip and, what I needed to bring to the table. But I saw that he was scaling and I'm like, all right, how can I get to that level? And, how can I get people to just give me money? And what's interesting is that a lot of times, we think that we're not capable of doing things like that, because it's like, well, I haven't done enough deals. So it's like, what are the chances that someone's going to really want to give me money? Like, I just started.
Maybe you haven't done any deals. Like, why would someone give you money? Exactly.
Yeah, no, definitely. And actually, quick little story, but I started fixing and flipping at the beginning of 2015. That was when I did my first fix and flip. So I did that, and I actually got the gap funding that I needed for my uncle. So my uncle had given me $25,000. So that's how I funded my first one, hard money loan, and then that one. But then after that, Jen, so my first deal I bought for $95,000, right? My second deal I bought for $220,000 and it needed $80,000 in rehab. I actually got an older gentleman that gave me $250,000 to fund the deal. So, and how all that happened is that, so I like to work out. I like to play basketball and stuff like that. So I'm always at 24-hour fitness, playing basketball with the guys. And so I'm always sharing what I do with people. And so a friend of mine that I had met there, had told me like, hey, if you're ever needing funding for something, like, let me know. And I might be open to funding some of your deals, because he's a big time like COO. He has super nice house in South Lake and stuff like that, which is one of the nicer areas up here in North Texas. So I met up with him one time and I was talking about the deal. And he's like, well, Maria, I might not have the money that you're looking for, but I could introduce you to somebody. So he introduced me to his friend. I literally met up with this friend at a Starbucks. And Jen, I came prepared. So quick tip, if you guys are meeting somebody and you're talking about a deal, come prepared. So I came with my comps to show him that I knew what I was talking about, what this home could sell for. I had already gotten a bid for my GC for the rehab. I had my purchase contract. And then also I had gotten the house appraised already with the repairs that we were going to do to show what the ARV potential could be. So I think me coming prepared and showing him everything really helps, because I think I followed up with him maybe a day or two later. And I was like, hey, so what are you thinking about the project? And I'll be honest, I thought this guy was going to say no, just because it's like, this is my second flip ever. And I'm asking him for $250,000. He just met me. What are the chances this guy's going to say yes? So he actually, reached back out to me. He's like, hey, Maria, I like the deal. Let's do it. And I was like, are you kidding me? So that, Jen, blew my mind, just because it showed me that, like, I really didn't need to have a ton of experience. Sometimes people see a younger version of themselves in you. So
Right.
if you, again, just kind of come prepared, bring everything that you need to, people will see that you're serious and you know what you're talking about. So the money that I'd made for my first flip, and also the money that I borrowed from my uncle, I had brought, I think it was 50 grand to the table. So I had a little bit of skin in the game myself. And then the gentleman gave me, again, $250,000. So that was my second deal. Again, not really knowing what I was doing. So I raised, money even before I really knew what this all kind of meant. But going back to your question though, again, my mindset coach is really who gave me the confidence that I could really do this. So essentially all I started doing, Jen, was putting it out there, like, on Facebook and Instagram, like, hey guys, I have a deal coming up. Here are some of the details. Does anyone know someone that's looking to invest in real estate and get a return? If so, reach out to me. So it's kind of just like putting it out there and asking, like, you'd be so surprised the number of people that maybe have money sitting in a savings account, or are maybe just interested in real estate, don't know how to get started, but they see that they could maybe invest with you and maybe they can learn along the way. So honestly, it's again, just kind of putting it out there. And so that's why I make sure that I'm always documenting everything in terms of me walking properties, my rehabs, and my projects, because if people see that I'm actually doing things, when it comes time for me to ask for money, it's like, okay, well, Maria shows that she has a track record. Like, she's actually been doing this. So it helps build, credibility. And essentially, that's how I was able to raise over $1 million last year. Because I had people reaching out to me, and Jen, people that I've never met. I have people from California that I've never met, people from Seattle that I've never met, but they've seen my posts and things like that. Because I try and post not only just my personal Facebook page, but in different groups, Bigger Pockets, or some of the local groups that I'm a part of here in Texas as well.
So many great nuggets there, and being visual on social media is so important, because I'm going to share a story with you going back to basketball. I don't know if you knew this, but I am a power forward from the AAU Florida team. What you got?
There you go, girl.
But from a Facebook post, a woman that I used to play basketball with 100 years ago actually was the private money lender on one of my deals recently. I had just put out there on Facebook, have you ever thought about getting involved in real estate investing? We're looking for a second position. We're paying this amount. And literally 30 seconds after I posted, she's like, oh, I'd like to do it. I was like, oh, well, I haven't spoken to you in 1,000 years, but awesome. Let's do this. And that's so true. And just being very visual on there, and talking about, this was another nugget you said, talking to every person and telling them what you do. And that just also starts building your credibility. And by the way, you're playing basketball with boys at the gym?
Yeah.
What position are you?
I always played,
what position?
Shooting guard.
I knew it. I knew it. All right. Let's get back to this, because I could talk about basketball now. We could totally shift this. So right before we began this podcast, you were telling me about a deal that you are working on, and it's adverse possession. And I was like, what is that? And you are just learning about it too, but I think this would be great for the listeners to hear. So tell us a little bit what adverse possession is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. So guys, this is something that I actually just learned about yesterday myself. So I'm not a pro, but I'm going to kind of break it down for you, and I'll explain it by kind of giving a scenario. So essentially with adverse possession and the deal that we're working on, so we ran across a house in Fort Worth that's been vacant for over 7 years. So both of the owners have passed away. And to our knowledge, because we've been trying to dig and dig and dig, there are no heirs to the property or anything like that. The property has been pretty behind on property taxes, about $35,000. And actually, it is scheduled to go to auction next week. And so, with adverse possession, if we come in and pay the property taxes and show the county, hey, we're going to be responsible for the property, we're going to upkeep it, we're going to, turn on utilities, kind of take care of everything for the next couple of years. What ends up happening is that there's essentially a 3-year period where if someone is entitled to that property, maybe that was their dad that they haven't talked to in years, whatever it is, they kind of have that period of time to kind of pop up and try and reclaim the property. In order for them to do that, though, and get possession, they would need to pay us back whatever we paid to catch up the property taxes, so that $35,000. But one of the things I did mention to you, Jen, is that there is a little bit of a risk because since that property has been vacant for about 7 years, it needs quite a bit of rehab. So we're already anticipating maybe at least $40,000 that we're going to invest. So if someone does pop up within the next 3 years, that is their property and they pay us back, $35K, there is a small possibility that maybe we'll lose out on that rehab money. But one of the things that I'd mentioned to you is that we plan on potentially putting another lien against it. But essentially after it's either the end of 3 years or the end of 4 years, a judge will then grant us free and clear title if we can prove and show documentation, hey, we've had the utilities turned on, we've been maintaining this property, no one has popped up in that time period saying that they have rights to it or anything like that. So that's something that we're literally working on, right now. And honestly, I did not know what this thing was until pretty much yesterday and the day before.
And how did you find this property again?
So this was actually a buddy of mine. So my friend, I guess they have another friend that kind of focuses on these because these are pretty hard to find. Because I was asking him, I was like, we need to, check these out. But yeah, so the lead came from a friend of his. And so my friend is the one that, is going to be purchasing the property or the one that's going to be on title. So when you buy this property, he can't put it under an LLC. It has to be under his personal name. So he's going to be the one, with his name on there. And then I'm going to come in as the money partner. So we were going to essentially split this 50-50 and just make sure that we, cover the taxes for the next couple of years. And he's actually thinking of putting all the utilities under his name. And our game plan, even though this is not really supposed to be something you do, our game plan is probably going to be to put a tenant in there potentially. Or if we're not able to do that for whatever reason, he's actually willing to move into the property and live there for the next three years or so. Yeah.
So you're basically getting a property that's valued at, you said 250-ish?
Yep. It's like 250. Yep.
So you're getting it for $35K.
Yep.
Paying the taxes, which you could get back if somebody pops up.
Yes.
But if you put in any rehab money, that's still questionable. So you're getting this property, really a $250,000 property for under $100K.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. And one thing to be careful of too, we did run the title work before just to make sure that there weren't any outstanding liens or anything against the property. But thankfully the previous owner had paid, the balance off and stuff like that. So that's one thing to watch out for just in case.
I mean, I didn't even think of that part, but awesome. Very, very cool. So this is really a unicorn type situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's something to, keep your ears open for. That's amazing. I want to jump back though, really quick, because a lot of the listeners have a full-time corporate America job right now, and they want to get started in this business. And you ran your business the first 4 years, correct? While still having your corporate America job. Am I doing the math right?
So I started fixing and flipping at the beginning of 2015, and I didn't quit until November 2021. So I was doing this part-time for a while, like super part-time.
And by yourself, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So how, Miss Badass, did you run this business, which can take so much time while working a corporate America job? So how did you balance everything?
Yep. No, that's a great question. So, I mean, I just tried to stay as organized as I could. So for example, once I kind of started slowly learning the process, first of all, I chose a marketing method. What is it that I want to stick with? So for me personally, I like text messaging and text blasts and stuff like that. So what I would do is that as soon as I finished work, I like to focus on the pre-foreclosure list. So I would literally go on the pre-foreclosure list on the county website, and I would just start working on that, pulling up all that information because Normal, they don't make it super easy for you. If you guys ever check out and go in there, it's sometimes just the legal description. You then still have to go back, try and find the address, the owner's name and stuff like that. So literally that's what I would do every single day after work. I would spend, maybe an hour kind of putting together the actual list. And then I would spend maybe another hour skip tracing it. And when I say skip tracing, I mean free skip tracing. So there's a website, truepeoplesearch.com. So I'd literally go in there and pick at least 2 or 3 phone numbers per person. And then once I did that, I'd spend another hour then texting all the numbers one by one through my Google Voice number that I had on my phone. So literally, it was just every single day repeating the process over and over again. And I mean, eventually, I started to get some text messages from people. And again, when I say part-time, I mean part-time, because I was only doing maybe 1 or 2 deals a year while I was doing my corporate job. Yeah.
So what type of message are you texting them?
So it was something pretty simple. I know a lot of people tend to focus on like, so what's the script? What's the secret?
Right.
What's the template that you're using? Guys, like, don't overcomplicate things. So I would send something like, hi, Mr. Seller, my name's Maria. I noticed that 123 Main Street was on the foreclosure list. I work with people in this situation and I wanted to see how I can help. ? That's it. So my approach, Jen, because a lot of people approach these people, they're in these distress situations is, hey, I saw you on the foreclosure list. I want to buy your property. It's like, well, what made you think that they wanted to sell their property in the first place? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I got a lot of responses. That's one thing that helped me because I came from an approach of how can I help you?
Right.
And so I tended to get, quite a bit of people that responded. And so, sometimes, Jen, I would actually help people keep their properties, but with the ones that I helped, sometimes those people still needed additional help because I remember one case in particular, I helped this lady because she was on the pre-foreclosure list, but it's because her HOA was trying to foreclose on her. So I told her, hey, just reach out to your HOA, come up with a payment plan, you should be good. So she actually reached out to me a couple months after that. She's like, hey, Maria, I'm being blown up again by a bunch of people. Can you check to see if I'm on the foreclosure list again? And so I looked her up and I saw that she was, but this time it was with her bank at Wells Fargo.
Oh.
And so she was like, hey, Maria, so actually I can't afford to live here anymore. So I'm going to have to sell the property. So she came back to me because I, helped her out from the beginning. I was honest with her and I helped her at least for a couple months, stay there. And she ultimately ended up selling me the property subject to, because I helped her on that first time.
So that was my next question was about subject to. I saw this on here and I have never done a subject to. I have set one up and they were actually being foreclosed upon by the HOA. And we tried to go through it, but we just couldn't get the numbers to work on all sides. And it was a lovely couple in a very tough situation. But subject to, let's dive into it. It's a great way to get a property for very little out of your own pocket. So explain in very basic terms what it means to buy a property with subject to.
Yep, definitely. So guys, essentially subject to, you're buying a property subject to the existing mortgage, meaning that instead of you having to get a hard money loan or whatever it is, the owner is going to keep their mortgage in place and you're just going to continue to make payments. So you'll pay them if you guys come up with some sort of agreement, whatever it is at closing, but their financing stays in place and you just essentially keep making payments on their mortgage.
And how are you protected?
So great question. So one of the things that I do whenever I'm buying a property subject to, because technically when the title does transfer from their name to your name, the lenders know, like that's something that gets triggered right away. And essentially if they wanted to, they could call the note due. But the thing is, honestly, a lot of these lenders, especially if they're bigger lenders, like they're not going to call the note due as long as they're getting their money,
right.
Like, and I've done a couple, they're not really going to mess around with that. So I just make sure that whenever we're doing that, one, I'm buying it in LLC, you know what I'm saying? So they don't know, like if maybe the owner just transferred it to their LLC or something like that.
Good point.
So that's one thing. But also two, the biggest thing that triggers potentially a lender calling a note due is when the insurance changes. And so one of the things that you want to make sure of is that when you're changing the insurance, that you're still adding the previous owners under additional insured. Because if you don't, then that's something that can, really tell the lenders like, hey, this isn't set up correctly. And so I make sure that I work with a good insurance company that knows how to do this stuff. So I still keep the previous owners on the insurance. I get a completely new policy. So I'm the main person. So if God forbid something happens, I'm not having to chase the old homeowners like, hey, can you guys sign this? And, da da da. No, we're not doing that. New policy. I'm the person on there or my LLC, but the previous owners are on there as additional insured. And then of course, get a power of attorney, that way you can ask for any documents you need from the lender at any time.
And another key player in these is having a good, in North Carolina, we use closing attorneys. Some states use title companies. You want to get someone to, work all the paperwork and actually have done subject to deals in the past, because that's so very important. We have one in North Carolina that I super trust. I mean, she's fantastic. She knows how to do it and how to structure it so that both parties are safe, because the homeowner is, signing the deed of their house over to you, but you are promising to make their payments for them. And it is a great way to save their credit. It's a great way to get them out of their house into something more affordable for them. I love the whole idea for it. Do you have an example of one where like specific numbers that you can think of off the top of your head of how they work?
Yeah, definitely. So actually I did one recently. So remember when I talked about how I sold the property to one of the ladies at my title company? So this was a subject too that I was working on. Oh. So these guys were actually going to foreclosure. I believe it was it was either February or March. I'm trying to remember. I think it was March probably. So these guys were going to foreclosure. They were behind about $21,000 on their mortgage. And so with what I thought the home could sell for and some of the repairs I might have to do, I was trying to have a conversation with them like, okay, guys, so how much do you guys think you guys will need in terms of moving expenses and also to maybe use as a down payment, for your apartment or a deposit or whatever it might be. I think initially they wanted like 10K and I told them, hey guys, I can do 6. So ultimately we ended up at 7,000. That's what we came up with. And so I was going to need to bring the 21,000 to reinstate their mortgage because you have to make sure you catch up the payments. I needed to pay the $7,000 that I told them I was going to pay them at closing. And then also I needed to cover closing costs as well. So total, I needed about $30,000 to get everything paid for. So what I ended up doing, Jen, is that I actually got a private lender to fund the entire $30,000. This was actually a young lady that reached out to me from California. She and I have never met. We've talked on the phone twice, but she funded the deal for me. And so what I did is that at closing, the seller got half of what they were supposed to get only because I didn't want to give them the full amount until they moved out. Oh. So make sure that if you guys do that, just because people can change their minds sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And then this now turns into a squatter and you have to try and get them out, yada, yada. So yeah, so we made an agreement where I'm paying them half. So they got $3,500 when we closed, only because we gave them an additional 2 weeks after closing, just so they wouldn't be so rushed. You know what I'm saying? I built a really good relationship with him. So I wanted he and his family, to have time to move out. So he got the $3,500 right when we closed. And then he got, the remaining $3,500 after he left and I had received the keys. So essentially with that deal, I think his monthly payment was about $2,100. But actually, Jen, what's funny is that I didn't even have to make a payment just because, again, it was going to auction in March. We closed right before that. So we closed end of February. It was going to auction in March. I actually, and the property, so this property had already been renovated in 2018 by an investor.
That was my next question, is like, how are you paying to renovate it?
Yeah, no. So this property had already been renovated. But there was actually, I think like a roof leak or something a couple of years ago. So they got the roof replaced, but they never did some of the interior repairs. Right. So what I had to pay for was fixing some of that stuff up on the interior. And also we painted the exterior as well, just because there had been some settling and shifts in the ground. And also I think they had done foundation work at one point. So total, I ended up putting in $5,000 for the rehab. And part of the reason I did that too was because one of my friends was really interested in the deal. She had mentioned to me last year that she had 3 properties she wanted to buy this year to add to her rental portfolio. I was like, girl, we can definitely do at least 1 a quarter. We got this. So I had talked to her about the property just because she works at the title company that I close with. And the property was 4 miles away from Cowboy Stadium. Again, like I mentioned, it was already pretty much turnkey. It had been renovated in 2018. So all I had to do was, again, those small repairs on the interior. I made sure to put in new blinds for her and everything. And then also I painted the exterior. And so she and I actually closed probably about 2 weeks ago. So total, I was all into the property. I think it was for 240, something like that. And I sold her the property for 275.
Wow.
And actually the property appraised for 295. So net, I ended up netting $35,000 on the deal. I did not have to make a single mortgage payment because literally we closed, about a little over a month after I had purchased it. And then she also walked into 20,000 in equity because it appraised for $20,000 more. And not only that, Jen, like she's my friend. I wanted to help her out.
Right.
So I actually found her a tenant. She told me that her monthly mortgage was going to be $2,100. So I started advertising the property on Facebook because I knew she was going to be going overseas away for a month to visit family. So I started advertising the property on Facebook. I found her somebody that was willing to pay $25.95
Nice.
to live in the property. So she's cash flowing about $500 a month, and the tenant moved in and has been paying her, and she's overseas right now, and doesn't have to worry about any of that stuff. So
don't you just love being a real estate investor? Because so many people think, ooh, real estate investors, they're just, they want to lowball offers, they do this and that. But so many times we get to wear the superhero's cape. And clearly you did this in this situation. You helped the sellers. Then you found a buyer and then got her property with instant equity in it and cash flowing. So it is just a great job to have. I mean, can you believe this? We do this for a living. I mean, I love hearing stories like this. You are amazing. I appreciate all the nuggets that you shared. And I want to jump into the second part of the podcast. But before we go in there, do you have a badassery bestowment that you can share with my listeners?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So one of the things we were talking about earlier was network. Jen mentioned how she and I met, at a retreat that we were at in Mexico. So guys, I can't stress enough, attending events, live and in person, you just never know who you're going to meet. So I met Jen at that retreat. And actually, guys, I have the deal that I mentioned earlier in Fort Worth that I'm doing the adverse possession. So I'm needing to come up with money to fund this project for the next 3 to 4 years. The private lender that's actually going to fund this deal for me is another investor that I met at that same TAB retreat in Mexico. So I just can't stress enough the power of networking and attending these events, you guys, getting out of your comfort zones, because you just never know who you're going to meet that could potentially be a private lender, might want to JV with you on deals or send you deals. So that would probably be my one tidbit that I would throw in there.
Perfect. I love it. I think it's a perfect badassery bestowment. And I will also say, when you're looking at events to attend, live events especially, because that's the best way to interact and network with people, don't really focus on who the speakers are and be really caught up in that, because it's about who's in the room with you and who that one person you're going to meet that's really going to change your business for you. So excellent. All right. The second half of the podcast is what makes Maria a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first one is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I think the one book that's made a huge difference is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. So I mentioned
this
earlier,
one. I don't know it.
Oh, girl. Yeah. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. So how I mentioned earlier that I have a mindset coach, we literally go through this book every single week, like not just go through it, but it's like page by page. Just because it talks about how a lot of us are already kind of programmed with different things that we're capable of doing. So for example, Jen, with me, for the longest time, I had said that I wanted to make $100,000 a year. Like that was a goal that I'd set for myself, because I'd always heard, six figures, but I never thought that I was capable of doing anything more than that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, once I hit 6 figures, like that's all I did. Like I didn't change my goals. I didn't change my thinking. And it wasn't until I joined the mindset group and I started hearing more about this book, and we started digging deep, like I started to kind of change my programming a little bit and just becoming aware, like, man, that that's a thing that I've always had in my mind. How can I change that? And then also attending these events, you start hanging out with different people that, why are you settling for $100,000 a year when you could be making $100,000 a month?
Yeah.
So Secrets of the Millionaire Mind just kind of opens you up to that change, helps change your mindset a little bit on things that, again, you've probably been programmed since you were young, haven't really realized it, and you might be cutting yourself short. So yeah.
And you mentioned coach, and I'm a big believer in coaches and paying for mentorship. How did you get involved with real estate? Did you do a mentorship program or an education program?
So it's funny. I actually did one of those guru coaches programs.
So did I.
So I was obsessed with flipping Vegas back in the day with Scott and Amy Yancey. So I actually got a little postcard in the mail one day saying that they were going to be having an event, to come to a free 1-day thing. So I went to their free 1-day thing. The 1 day they pitch you on coming to a 2-day where you spend a little bit of money. So I did that. And ultimately, Jen, they taught us how to increase our credit card limits in that thing. And because they were getting us ready to purchase the big program. Mm-hmm. So initially, in 2014, how I got started is that I went to their program and I paid almost $40,000 with the course and some of the bonuses that they offered. And I put it all on credit cards.
Oof. I know that's tough, but you made that back like soon after. So a lot of people get hung up on that number of what to pay for that education program. By the way, there are a gazillion gurus out there. You mentioned the word guru and I laughed because yes, I also went to one. I joined Than Merrill's program, which is called Fortune Builders. It's amazing. And I don't regret it one bit. I myself paid $35,000, but you make that money back. And for people who get hung up on the price, like, is it a price? You either pay that now or a year from now, when you don't pay it, you're going to be in the same place where you are. Like what is more valuable to you? So taking that leap of faith and making a financial investment in yourself is so very important. So thank you for saying that. And, you make it back tenfold.
Oh, 100%. Jen, I can't stress that enough.
Yes.
Like, I'll be honest, it freaked me out when I saw that price tag, but I started thinking about it like, hey, I'm paying almost $40,000 a year for my college education.
Right.
I kind of saw this as an education, but it's like that information that you learn, you're going to keep repeating that. Like, guys, I just made $35,000 on a deal last month. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to kind of put that in perspective.
Right.
When you start to get over that, you'll go forward.
Sky's the limit. All right. The first A in badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So I don't know who said this, or maybe I've just kind of heard it in different places, but one of the things that we start to do is we start comparing ourselves a lot to other people. And it's like, guys, everyone's running their own race. You know what I'm saying? So I think one of the biggest things is, stop comparing yourself to other people and what they're doing. They're not your competition. You're your own competition. You know what I'm saying? Just try and be better than you were the day before. So that's definitely something that I needed to do in the very beginning, just because you get a little bit, I don't even know what the right phrase is, but you start seeing what other people's accomplishments are. And it's like, man, well, I'm not doing that. But Right. It's like, I just talked about how from 2014, 2015 to up until I quit my job, basically, I was only doing like 1 or 2 deals a year. But the last actually year and a half, is really when I've stepped up. And of those 30 plus whatever deals I've done more than half of them just here in the last year and a half, almost 2 years. And it's because, I needed that time to learn what I was doing, get my systems in place. You know what I'm saying? But now I can scale like no other because I took that time to learn. And,
Right.
So that's probably one of my biggest things I'd say. Stop comparing yourself to other people, run your own race, and, do what you got to do.
Excellent advice. All right. The D in badass is drive. What drives you to be successful?
So one of the things that I was thinking about too, and I just kind of brought this up. So one is my family. And I'm going to say real quick. So my parents decided to come here to the United States when they're in their mid-20s. They didn't know any English. They didn't have money like that. So I think like now that I'm getting older, honestly, I'm becoming more appreciative of the sacrifices that they made, just because I think to whenever I was in my mid-20s, would I leave to go to another country, not knowing the language there and without any money, to start over? Like, heck no. So I think that's one of the things that drives me. Like, I just want to kind of say like, just thank you every day. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I'm appreciating that more and more now that I'm getting older, because I saw everything that they did. But I think one of the other things too is just kind of like always wanting to grow and make progress. Like I feel like if I'm making progress and every day, if I'm achieving something, like, I don't know, I just kind of feel good. So I think it's just like that feel good, that feeling of feeling good. Like I want to make sure that I'm growing and progressing. So I think, that's one of the things that kind of drives me to be successful. Like I want to constantly feel like that. I think it's chasing that feeling and becoming that person that I'm ultimately supposed to be at the end.
And again, the word I have for you is fearless, because I see nothing stopping you at this point. So you are amazing. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what's a goal you are currently working on?
Yes, ma'am. So a couple things that we're shooting for. So this year, for my company, we're trying to gross $1 million. We have a couple closings coming up. We're going to be like actually right at 250. So we're a little behind on our goal, but we have some things that are kind of coming up. So gross $1 million this year for the company. And then also I want to add 12 doors. So essentially one rental a month, which I already have my fourth rental lined up for this month.
Boom.
So far I'm on pace for this year to do that.
And you keep saying we. Who's the we on your team? Who do you have working with you?
Yeah, and it's funny because for the most part, I'm the one that's doing a lot of the buying. But remember that older gentleman that I said I met on my second deal? I think when I met him, I kept saying I all the time whenever I was talking to him, and he's the one that told me, Maria, if we're going to be working on deals together, you should get used to saying we. And so he's the one that kind of brought that up to me. So I was like, you know what, he's right. But I do have a little team also. So I have 3 virtual assistants that work for me and help me with the marketing, setting appointments and things like that. And then also I do have 3 acquisitions managers. One of them does it full time, and we have another one or 2 others part time that help us close leads and stuff like that as well.
Awesome. That is amazing. I still have yet. I mean, we have virtual assistants, but we haven't. I want an assistant so bad, especially someone who can do like blowouts for my hair, because just while you're there in the morning, can you just blow dry my hair for me? Anyway, that's a secret fantasy. All right. So back to badass. The first S in badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
So I actually use Brandon Turner's his daily planner. Oh man, and
I have that. It's like black and it's leather bound. Yes, it is amazing.
Yes. And yeah, so I literally use that every single day, and I kind of plan out my day just because we get pulled in so many different directions. Like I have lenders that are constantly calling me, wanting me to work with them and stuff like that. Hard money lenders or just regular lenders. Or something's happening with my rental properties in Ohio and my property manager's calling me, or my other property manager in Cleveland or in Michigan rather. So one is using my calendar or a planner. So the planner to kind of first lay things out, and then I have to use my calendar. So my virtual assistants, whenever they make appointments for me, they know that appointments need to be at least an hour between each other. And also they make a reminder in my calendar. And I mean, the CRM that we use kind of keeps track of everything. So I just try and make sure that I'm staying on top of my follow-ups and things like that. But, honestly, for me, it's the planner, the calendar, and then my team. That's kind of what helps me achieve everything that I need to achieve at the end of the day.
That's huge. Yeah. I can't remember what he did a program when that first came out, and there was like a whole group of us and we would check in with each other like weekly. It was this all accountable. I don't even remember what it was.
It's the intention journal. That's what it is. It came back to me. Intention journal. Yeah. And he would, I think I was in a little group for a little bit too. It was like maybe 2 or 3 other people when we first got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still friends with 2 guys from that. So that's very cool. Awesome. All right. The final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Maria?
I think for me, success means, finding your purpose and kind of just feeling fulfilled. Like, I think for me, like when I first started, for example, in finance, like I loved finance. Like it didn't feel like work for me and stuff like that. But then, I'd been doing it for a little bit and I kind of got introduced to real estate. And what's funny is that I will work on real estate from like 7 a.m. to like midnight. And it just doesn't feel like work. You know what I'm saying? Like I love it only because there's so many different scenarios. Like one day I could be helping someone going through pre-foreclosure. The next day I could be trying to work on a project, doing adverse possession and getting pulled over by the cops, which actually that happened when we went to go check out that house yesterday because the neighbors had seen someone trying to break in. which we were just trying to take a look on the inside, nothing crazy. So as we're pulling away from the house, literally a cop pulls us over like 2 houses down, which actually what I ended up doing is that I ended up turning them into bird dogs because I gave them both my cards and I told them that we look for vacant houses like this all the time. So we're trying to improve neighborhoods and get rid of boarded up homes. And actually one of the police officers was a part-time real estate agent. So he said he's going to start doing that full time when he retires. So I gave both the guys my cards and they let us go.
And there you go again, back to telling everybody what you do. That is amazing. Maria, you are amazing. I appreciate you being on the show. How can people find you on social media?
Yep, definitely. So best way to probably get in touch with me guys is through Instagram. So I'm at lady_hustle23. I do have a Facebook, Maria Acosta, but probably the easiest way would be, through Instagram on lady_hustle23.
Well, you definitely hustle. You are fearless. I can't wait to see you in Jamaica, man. And We're going to have a great time. Thank you, Maria. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.